I'm going to prop today with a blanket, and I have two blocks here. So if y'all want to grab anything, now is the time. And we're going to go ahead and get started on our in a seated position. So sometimes it can be comfortable to sit on a block or a folded blanket or something just to lift the hips up a little bit. Get my timer going. Perfect. All right, and let's just take a few minutes to kind of settle in here. You might like to let the eyes close and start to turn your attention inward, taking a nice deep breath in and slowly letting that breath go. And then again, let's breathe nice and deep, slowing that breath down, and then let it go. Nice. And from here, we can allow our breath to resume its natural rhythm. And let's just take a moment to check in with the body and notice how the body is doing today. Noticing how your jaw feels. Is it tight and tense? If so, maybe you can soften it a little bit. How do your shoulders feel? Do they feel crunchy and hunchy, or are they feeling pretty loose? Just noticing. How's your back feeling? Are there any areas of tightness or tension? Maybe you can set the intention to soften or relax a little bit if you're finding something there. Noticing how the hands feel. Can you soften them? Bringing now your awareness to your hips and pelvis, noticing how that part of your body feels. Maybe you've been sitting all day and your butt's asleep. Just checking in. And if there's anything tight or tense there, maybe you can relax. I feel some tightness in my hip. Perhaps you have something similar. And then bringing awareness down to the feet and softening the feet if you can, noticing how they feel. And then taking a nice big deep breath in and letting it go. And then from there, if your eyes are closed, let's blink them open gently. And we're gonna start in a seated position. We're gonna stay here for a little bit, and we're actually gonna stay pretty low to the ground today. We're not gonna do any standing postures. And for today's class, since it's been so hot recently, and also like this just seems to be a very, very busy and stressful time for folks on campus. I thought we would do a practice that's focused on like calming the mind and the nervous system. I mean, aren't they all? But this one in particular will have a lot of forward folding because in the yogic tradition that is said to calm the mind and soothe the spirit. So if you have a tendency to need a little bit of like propping, if you want to grab a pillow or a bolster of some kind to sort of like put in front of you for some of our seated forward folds, please feel free to do that. But we're going to stay here in whatever like a comfortable seated position is for you. If you're cross-legged, great. If your legs are out in front of you, that's also awesome. Of course, you can always do these seated postures in a chair as well. But from here, we're just going to continue to notice and like awaken through the body. So let's start by dropping that chin to the chest and then gently and slowly roll toward one side until you really bring one ear toward the shoulder. You don't have to connect them, just, going in that direction. And just noticing how the opposite side of the neck is feeling. Noticing any tightness or tension. You might like turn your head a little bit from side to side and just notice how the neck is feeling. If you're feeling some really tight or tense areas, you could always take a couple of fingers and just gently press or massage into that area, helping to release, relax the neck. Giving yourself a little love here. And then we'll release that and come back through center, dropping chin back to the chest. And then we'll bring our left ear or the opposite ear towards the opposite shoulder here. Starting out there, noticing how the neck is feeling. Again, you might like to turn your head from side to side a little bit and just notice if there are any areas that are feeling particularly tight or tense. And if you find something like that, maybe you want to bring a couple of fingers and gently press or massage into that area. Noticing too how the first side is different from the second side. And then we'll release that and come back through center. And then raise the head up to a normal sort of like gazing forward situation. And from here, let's bring the shoulders up towards the ears and then roll them back and down so that you're really opening through the chest, and then bringing them forward and back up again, moving through those shoulder circles a few times, really getting some range of motion in the shoulders. And after your third circle, let's go the opposite direction, moving forward, down, and backwards. Getting some movement and awakening through this part of the body, the upper back, the chest. And after your third circle, we'll pause there and just sort of let our shoulders drop back into their usual position and notice how they're feeling now. Maybe they're feeling a little looser, or maybe you found a sticky spot in there. Nice. And then let's just take a moment to roll our wrists out here, rolling them one way and then the other way. You might like to give yourself like a little bit of a hand massage, especially that really meaty, tender part underneath the thumb tends to get pretty sore and tight if we're doing a lot of typing or driving or texting or scrolling or any of those sorts of things that use a lot of our fine motor skills. Just taking this opportunity to show yourself some love here. All right, nice. And from there, we're going to move into some more movement. So if you have your legs crossed, I recommend switching the cross of your legs now, just for like evenness. Okay, and from here, we're going to move into some seated cat-cows. So let's go into our cow first, opening the heart forward and looking up, tipping the tailbone back, back bending, inhaling. And then as you're exhaling, let's tuck the tail and tuck the chin, coming into that cat spine, that arch. And then we'll move back into our cow posture, opening the heart, looking up, back bending, inhaling, and then exhaling, arching the spine once more, tucking the chin, tucking the tail. Wow, I'm trying to combine those two words. And then let's do that one more time. Inhaling into our cow, back bending, and then exhaling into our cat, arching the spine. Nice. And then we'll come into a nice neutral position. So really thinking about drawing the spine up tall, maybe even imagining that you have like a string attached to the top of your head that could draw the spine up even more towards the sky. And from here, let's drop one hand to the mat, maybe your left hand, and then sweep the opposite hand, maybe your right hand, up and over. So you're starting to side bend and get into that side body a little bit. If you want to get deeper into the side body, you can bend the elbow of the arm that's touching the floor. Thinking about really letting the right hip, or whichever hip is attached to your overstretched arm, stay really heavy on the mat. Keeping those hips evenly weighted as much as possible here in our side bend. And from here again, you might like to turn your head side to side a little bit. And then we'll inhale up through center, reaching the arms up tall to the sky, finding that length in the spine. And then we'll drop our right hand, or the opposite hand, to the floor and bring that other arm up and over. Again, thinking about keeping that hip nice and weighted, nice and even on the floor. If you want to go deeper, you can always bend the elbow of the arm that's attached to the floor. And then again, you might like to turn your head from side to side. Again, noticing how this side is different from the first side. Okay, and then we'll come back through center. And from here, let's take our left hand to the outside of our right knee. We're going to use that as a little bit of a stabilizer. And then we'll take our right hand either out beside us on the mat or the floor, or like right behind us. Inhaling the spine nice and long here. And then we'll exhale and turn to gently look over the right shoulder. Thinking about allowing the twist to unfurl from the core. We're not using the arms to like crank our spine into the twist. So as we inhale, we lengthen the spine, and as we exhale, we deepen the twist ever so slightly from the core of our body. All right, let's let that go. Let's come through center, and then we'll do the same thing on the second side. So this time bringing the right hand to the outside of the left knee, bringing that left hand either beside you on the mat or maybe right behind you. And again, inhaling the spine up nice and long before turning to look over that left shoulder and twisting ever so gently, growing the spine long on the inhale and unfurling from the spine on the exhale. Nice. And then we'll come back through center. And from here, let's stretch those legs out nice and long in front of us. You might like to kind of tap the knees and wake the legs up now that we've been sitting in one position for a little bit. And from here, we're going to take a long-legged forward fold. So when we're folding forward, we want to think about hinging forward from the hips rather than like sort of bending from the waist. So thinking about bringing that heart towards the toes, maybe inching those fingers down along the legs, seeing where a comfortable stopping place for you is. You can always bring a couple of blocks here beside the feet if you want a little bit more width for your hands and use that as a way into the posture. If you're feeling really tight in the hamstrings, maybe think about keeping the knees a little bit bent, or you could even put blocks or some other kind of prop underneath the knees, like a pillow perhaps, or a blanket. So from here, again, hinging forward from the waist, thinking about keeping a nice flat spine. As you draw that spine towards your toes, feeling the opening along the back body, feeling the compression in the front body. Maybe playing around with your leg position to see what feels right for you. If you started out with knees straight, maybe you'd like to bend them and see how that feels, and perhaps the other way around. Always thinking about what's going to work for your body and meeting that body right where it is. We don't need to force anything here. All right. And let's slowly come up out of that. If you're using any props, you might like to move them aside. From here, we're going to bring our legs out nice and wide. And we're going to forward fold one more time. So if you want to bring props with you, you're welcome to do that. So legs nice and wide. Thinking about flexing those toes towards the face. You don't need to have like a really big stretch in your inner thighs or anything, so don't worry about going too wide, just wide enough to give your torso some space to fold forward and have a little bit of a different hip position here. So again, thinking about hinging forward from the waist, from the hips, and then walking or nudging those hands forward until you find a place that feels good to stop. And once you get there, really feeling into the sensations of the body, noticing how the backs of the legs feel, the inner thighs, the back, especially the low back. You might feel compression in the hips, pressure, compression in the belly. And maybe now that we've been here for a couple of breaths, you can scooch just a touch further into the forward fold, or maybe not. All right, and from here, let's walk the hands back up, coming back up to a straight-backed seated position. And then from here, you can keep your legs wide, or if you'd like to do so, you can fold one leg in so that the bottom of the foot is tucked in towards the thigh. And then think about turning your torso so that your chest is pointed towards this outstretched leg. And from here, we'll walk down, again, hinging forward at the hips, coming into this version of a head to knee pose. This can be a nice place for blocks if you wish to use them. Feeling the opening through the side body, the compression in the other side body, the opening in the backs of the legs or the back of one leg. Reconnecting with that breath. Staying connected with the feeling of the weight of your body on the floor, that connection with the ground, with the mat, helping to ground us here in our bodies in this time, in this practice. And then we'll let that go. We'll come up slowly, coming back through center. We're going to switch our legs. You might like to stretch them out in front of you first and do a nice little tap, tap, tap. Or maybe you just want to move right into it. Whatever works for you. So again, legs can both be outstretched, or you can place that bottom of the foot against the inner thigh or towards it. And then we'll turn our torso to face the foot. And then gently hinging forward from the hips, coming into our variation of head to knee pose. If you can get your head to your knee today, love that for you. It's definitely not happening for me. And we're not here to push it, So again, noticing the opening in one side of the body and compression in the other side of the body. Maybe you notice that this side feels quite different from the first side. Maybe it's feeling much more flexible. Maybe it's feeling much tighter. Taking stock of your experience in your sweet body. All right, and then let's come back up through center. And then let's take a moment here to do a counter pose for all of our forward folding. So placing both feet on the floor in front of us, planting them there. Our knees are pointed up toward the sky. Our hands can be placed on the mat or on the ground behind us. Fingers can point backwards or forwards, whatever feels right to you. And from here, we'll lift our hips up to the sky for reverse table. You might even like to let your head fall back. Squeezing the glutes, lifting those hips. And then we'll come back down to the mat. And from here, let's move to our hands and knees. As usual, I'm going to take my blanket with me. Pad those knees. Please feel free to do the same if that would feel good for you. And from here, we're just going to find our all fours position, hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, about hip width, yep. And finding a nice flat spine, nice and long, giving yourself a little bit of natural traction between the head and the hips, opening up through the spine. And then we'll move into a few cat-cows here in this different orientation. So again, let's start with cow. Tipping the hips up, opening the heart forward and looking up, dropping the belly, inhaling. And then exhaling, tucking the chin, tucking the tail, arching the spine, doming up between the shoulder blades. And then inhaling, coming back through cow, opening the heart forward, looking up, Dropping the belly, inhaling, and exhaling, arching the spine, tucking the chin, tucking the tail, doming up between the shoulder blades. And let's do that one more time. Inhaling to cow. And exhaling to cat. And from here, let's bring our knees nice and wide. Toes can come to or towards touching. And then set the hips back to or towards the heels. You can always place a blanket or blocks, pillow between the hips and the feet if that would feel good for you. And we're going to outstretch the arms here, bringing the forehead to or towards the mat. And then letting everything relax onto the mat. Taking a nice passive child's pose here. Reconnecting with the breath. Nice. You might like to walk hands over to one side and open up through one side of the body, stacking hands maybe, one on top of the other. Feeling the sensation in the side body, maybe the ribs feel sticky. And then we'll come through center and take that to the second side if you'd like. Breathing into the side body. And then coming back through center. And from here, you can simply drop your elbows to the mat, keeping the hands and forearms on the mat. And then we're going to come down on our bellies for Sphinx. So arranging ourselves so that our elbows are beneath the shoulders, keeping the feet about hip width apart. They can even be a little bit wider if that feels good for you. And then from here, allowing ourselves to be in this sort of supported back bend, where the bones of the arms are holding us up into our little sort of cobra position, but allowing the back and the spine to stay in more of a relaxed pose than if we were engaging all those muscles to be in cobra. Thinking about relaxing the glutes, relaxing the low back, relaxing the belly. And then from here, let's bring our hands underneath our shoulders, tuck the toes underneath us, and push up onto our knees. And then from here, we'll lift the hips up toward the sky, piking the hips up, pressing into the mat with the hands, pressing into the mat with the feet, finding some length in the spine here in our downward facing dog. And then from here, we can simply drop to the knees, and then we'll meet on our backs for our closing postures together. So finding your way onto your back in whatever form and fashion feels good to you. Taking a moment here in this new orientation to just adjust and reconnect with the body, feeling the weight of the body on the floor. All right. And from here, let's draw the knees in toward the chest, maybe rocking from side to side. And then we can drop the feet to the mat about hip width apart, bringing the arms long on the mat beside us. And from here, let's gently lift the hips toward the sky, coming into our bridge pose, engaging the glutes, engaging the hamstrings, pressing through the corners of the feet, feeling the strength of your body here. And then unfurling the spine, coming back to the mat. And let's take one ankle and cross it over the opposite knee, maybe the right over the left, but whatever works for you is great. And from here, let's begin to press the right knee out a little bit, opening up through the hip, the inner thigh. This might feel good. This might be where you want to stay. Or maybe you'd like to draw that entire shape in towards your chest, grasping behind the hamstring or beneath the knee, around the shin. And from here, just exploring the sensations. You might rock a little bit from side to side and see if there's a spot that feels particularly sticky or tight. Taking any movements that feel intuitive or natural for the body here, maybe rolling out the ankles, maybe just taking that rocking motion and moving through all the tightness in the glute and hip on this side. Breathing into any tightness or tension you're experiencing. Slowing that breath down if you can. When we're in these relatively safe moments where we might be experiencing a little discomfort, it's a great time to practice slowing down the breath in the face of that edge a little bit, helping to teach the body that this is okay, this is safe. All right, and we're going to let that go, dropping the foot back down to the floor, bringing the other foot to the floor. Maybe from here you want to kind of let the knees drop from side to side. Windshield wipering the legs. Getting movement in the low back and the hips. And then we'll do that same posture on the second side. So whichever leg you didn't start with, let's bring that ankle on top of the opposite knee this time. Taking a moment to just press the knee out, feeling the opening in the thigh and the hip. And then if you'd like to take the other variation of this posture, we'll begin to draw this whole shape in towards us, grasping again behind the hamstring or beneath the knee, around the shin. And then again, taking any kind of motions or movements that feel good for you, maybe doing a little rocking, maybe rolling out the ankles a little bit. Sending the breath deep into that hip. Feeling the weight of your body on the floor here. Slowing the breath down if you can. All right, and we will release that, dropping one foot to the floor, dropping the other foot to the floor. And then again, you might like to just drop knees from side to side. And the next time you come to the right side, let's stop there and keep this twist, bringing the knees to stack on top of each other if it's comfortable. If there's a lot of space between the knees, you can always use a block to prop that a little bit, giving yourself a little support. And you can kind of play around with the angle that feels right for you. And once you find a position that feels good, you're happy in your twist, consider outstretching the opposite arm and turning to look over that arm towards your fingertips. Relaxing into the twist here, no effort necessary. Feeling the weight of your body on the floor. Nice. And then from here, let's come back through center, bringing the knees back up to the middle, and then simply dropping those knees to the opposite side. Stacking the knees, using any props that feel good for you. And then if you'd like, outstretching the opposite arm and turning to look over that arm. Relaxing into the twist. No effort needed here. Feeling the weight of your body on the floor. And then as you're ready, we'll come back to the center of our mats, face up, and then just gently extend the legs on your mat. You might like to have them nice and wide, resting the hands on the mat or maybe on the body, and just taking a moment to rest here, allowing the eyes to close, letting your body rest and integrate your practice for just a moment. Relaxing again the jaw, relaxing the belly, relaxing the glutes and the hips, softening the hands, softening the feet, feeling the weight of your body fully supported by your mat, by the floor. Maybe you can soften just a tiny bit with each exhale, melting into the mat 1%, 5%. Letting the breath slow down just a little bit here. And there's no rush, so if you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're most welcome to do so. Otherwise, let's begin to deepen the breath, taking a nice big deep breath in. And slowly let it go. Taking a moment to awaken through the fingers, wiggling the toes. Maybe stretching the arms and legs long on the mat. Blinking the eyes open. As you gently turn to one side, whichever side you prefer, just pausing here for a moment, enjoying the transition as you move from practice into the rest of the day. And then if you're ready, we'll press ourselves up into a seated position and end where we started. Just taking one more moment to reconnect with the body here in this seated orientation, feeling the weight of your body on the floor, and taking one nice big deep breath in, and then letting it go. And hopefully from here, having a wonderful rest of your day and hopefully a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Have an awesome day. Take good care, y'all. Stay hydrated out there.